Christmas at my parents' house was always a performance. Crystal glasses, imported wine, a tree so tall it nearly scraped the ceiling. Everything polished. Everything expensive. Everything designed to impress. I was halfway through my coffee when my father cleared his throat. That was his signal. Boardroom mode. Your mother and I made an executive decision, he announced, not looking at me. We sold your Arlington property. The room stayed quiet. My sister Jessica smiled into her wine glass like this was overdue housekeeping. 5.2 million, my father added proudly. Well above market. You're welcome. I set my cup down carefully. You sold my house? I asked. My mother waved a dismissive hand. It was abandoned, Madison. Be reasonable. They thought it was empty. They thought no one needed it. They were wrong. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you are listening from. They didn't hesitate when they said it. That's what hurt the most. In our family, wealth wasn't just money, it was identity. Appearances were currency. My mother curated charity galas like product launches. My father spoke in acquisitions and margins. Even Christmas felt sponsored. Jessica fit perfectly into their world. New Mercedes every 2 years. Designer handbags. Social media perfection. Her husband loved to announce investments like trophies. Me. I was the quiet one. The consultant who traveled too much. The daughter who drove an 8-year-old Volvo. They mistook my silence for incompetence. They assumed that because I didn't flaunt wealth, I didn't have any. 2 years ago, I signed a limited power of attorney so my father could handle property taxes while I was overseas. They saw paperwork. They saw opportunity. They saw an asset sitting unused. What they never saw was why that house existed in the first place. My father didn't present it like a betrayal. He presented it like a victory. We moved quickly, he said, pacing near the fireplace. All cash buyer. Clean close. We even structured the LLC for tax efficiency. My mother nodded as if they'd rescued me from financial ruin. We handled everything. Negotiations. Attorneys. Escrow. Then my father smiled. After our 25% management fee, of course. The number landed like glass on marble. 1.3 million, he clarified proudly. Standard compensation for our expertise. My sister leaned back in her chair. You should be thanking them. Most families wouldn't go to this trouble. You should thank us. That was the moment. Not when they said they sold it. Not even when they said 5.2 million. But when they called theft a favor. Something in me went cold. They kept calling it an investment property. An unused asset. A stagnant line on a spreadsheet. But that house in Arlington was never sentimental. It wasn't childhood memories. It wasn't decor or furniture. It was functional. When I was in the capital, as they liked to mock, that was where I stayed. Not because it was convenient, but because it was secure. The reinforced doors weren't aesthetic upgrades. The private fiber line wasn't for streaming. The soundproof office wasn't for Zoom calls. They never asked why the basement had restricted access. They never questioned the government contractor vans that came at odd hours. As they never really looked. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out my phone. No dramatic sigh. No shaking hands. Just clarity. I opened the secure app. And at exactly 12:03 a.m. I flagged the breach. By 12:17 a.m., the performance had already begun. My mother posted a carefully staged photo of the Christmas tree. One empty chair in the corner. Caption. Some children forget who raised them. Praying for maturity and gratitude this season. The comments filled with sympathy. Jessica followed with a subtler strike. A group text dripping in condescension. You're overreacting. It was just a house. Dad made you millions. Tyler chimed in about adult decisions and financial literacy. They weren't defending themselves. They were building a narrative. Ungrateful daughter. Emotional overreaction. Family victimized by success. I didn't reply. I screenshotted every post. Every message. Every timestamp. Because to them this was family drama. To me it was evidence. My secure line vibrated once. Not a ringtone. A coded pulse. I answered immediately. Director Morrison didn't waste time. The Arlington property has been flagged, he said evenly. The trustees executed an unauthorized sale. I confirmed. Silence followed, the kind that carries weight. Then he clarified what my parents had never bothered to understand. The house wasn't just a residence. It was a registered sensitive federal facility. A secured operational site. Filed under national security protocols. The sale was automatically void. But the act of selling it? A criminal violation. The buyer had already been flagged by counterintelligence. There would be asset seizure. Electronic warrants. Immediate intervention. Then he said it plainly. Legally speaking, that abandoned house was federal property. I looked at the screenshots on my phone. They thought they had sold my inconvenience. They had just triggered a federal breach. Director Morrison wasn't finished. The buyer, Meridian Property Holdings LC, wasn't a private investment group. It was a shell company. Layered ownership. Offshore accounts. Foreign energy connections. Flagged twice in prior intelligence briefings. My father had called them efficient. He had praised their all-cash offer. He had never looked beyond the wire transfer. By structuring the sale and taking their 25% management fee, my parents had unknowingly facilitated access to a secured federal site. Counterintelligence was already tracing the transaction. The $1.3 million they were celebrating? Now classified as potential criminal proceeds tied to an unauthorized transfer of a protected facility. They weren't just overconfident. They were exposed. And I understood something with absolute clarity. They didn't just steal from me. They compromised the state. Morning didn't arrive gently. It arrived with the low hum of engines. 3 black SUVs rolled into the driveway just after 9 a.m. No sirens. No drama. Just inevitability. Through the glass doors, my father straightened his posture, already rehearsing authority. He adjusted his cufflinks like he was about to close another deal. The door wasn't knocked on. It was accessed. Agents stepped inside with federal warrants in hand. My mother's voice trembled for the first time in my life. Madison, fix this. Special Agent Walsh didn't look at them. She looked at me. Undersecretary, the perimeter is secure. The room went silent. My father's confidence drained, replaced by confusion that bordered on fear. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain. I simply met their eyes and said calmly, "You sold it." No yelling. No emotion. Just authority. 6 months later, the noise was gone. There were no dramatic headlines anymore. No frantic phone calls. Just consequences. My parents avoided prison, but not accountability. Federal probation. Heavy fines. Professional licenses suspended pending review. Their names quietly removed from boards that once competed for their presence. The Hamptons' invitations stopped. My sister's designer lifestyle adjusted overnight when frozen accounts became permanent losses. Her messages to me went from accusatory to silent. The investigation formally closed with findings entered into record. As for me, I was appointed to a higher diplomatic post. No celebration. No revenge. Just balance restored. Justice doesn't cheer. It simply corrects the ledger. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was sovereign. For years they treated my life like a portfolio. My time as negotiable. My property as manageable. My silence as proof of incompetence. But worth is not a line item. An authority doesn't need to shout. They believed family meant access. They believed quiet meant powerless. They believed abandoned meant available. They were wrong. The house was never abandoned. It was protected. And I was never the weakest person in the room. Sometimes power doesn't reveal itself until it's forced to. And when it does, it doesn't argue. It corrects. If you've ever been underestimated, there's another story waiting for you.